Hello everybody, it's Monica Heltz. Today is Tuesday, February 9th, and this is your weekly community risk rating scale update. We are still in red on our community risk rating scale, which is severe community risk for transmission. As far as our primary metrics for community transmission, we look at our percent positivity and our case incidence rate, and we have seen some dramatic decreases in those over the last few weeks, which is amazing. Our percent positivity rate from the county level individuals tested is at 11.2%, which is the closest we've seen to 10% in quite some time. We're still in our red zone. Anything over 10% is red, but we're getting closer to the 10% mark. Last week we were up 14%, and that seemed pretty good. So we're continuing to make progress in that direction. Our Fishers Health Department percent positivity rate is at 8.51%, so that is actually in our orange category this week, which is the lowest we've seen in some time. Our case incidence rate last week was at 50, and now today it's down to 36.88. So again, making dramatic decreases. We're still well over 25, which is our red cutoff. So not ready to change our metrics yet, but we are inching closer and seeing a lot of progress on those metrics. Public health capacity remains steady and the same as it has in the past weeks. Testing availability remains quite good. You can get a test the same day or the next day. Tracing capacity is strong. We are able to get a hold of everyone within 24 hours and to do some follow-up. Testing turnaround is also very good. We're seeing those test results come back within 1 to 2 days typically. So no real changes there. We have actually made the decision to close off our technology drive testing site for now. We remain the capacity and the capability if we need to open it back up. If you are in need of school-related testing, you can still get that done through our drive-through site, and we still have the same capabilities and capacities. You can still access the testing in exactly the same way. We're just not going to staff that other site for right now starting next Monday. So if you have an appointment this week, you can keep that appointment, but starting next Monday, you won't be able to make appointments at that facility. Again, we can ramp it back up if we need to, if the testing demand increases again. In hospital news, we are seeing some declines in hospitalization rates. Our ICU availability is up. It's about double where it was about a month ago. So it's at 37.6% ICU beds available, which is quite good for District 5. COVID patients hospitalized, we're at about the same level we were in early November, so we continue to see decreases there. Emergency department visits, hospitalizations, and ICU admissions are all down for the district. So all of these things are good indicators that we are on the down slope of this particular curve. Regarding vaccine, again, good news. We have vaccinated 3,232 people as of the end of the day yesterday. We do start our second doses this week. So anybody who we vaccinated a month ago, we start giving second doses this week. So we're excited about that. We have seen that in Hamilton County as a whole, 12% of our population has received their first dose. 5.5% have completed their vaccines, which is amazing. And just a reminder that in Fishers we have slightly different demographics for our community. For example, 9% of our population is over 65 years old versus 12% of Hamilton County's population versus 16% of the state's population. So just something to keep in mind. We probably have a higher percentage of healthcare workers. I didn't look up that figure today, but that probably speaks to why we have a higher percentage of our population that has already been vaccinated. As far as other things we're monitoring, we know there are new variants out there with COVID, so we are watching that very carefully. We've had 12 identified cases so far in the state. I would expect those numbers to increase dramatically. We know that that variant may be more infectious and it may have a higher mortality associated with it. We're basically trying to get as many vaccines in arms as we can so that we can continue to get ahead of this thing, but we're essentially in a race against these other variants popping up, and we knew that those were going to be popping up at some point. So we'll keep an eye on that and keep trying to get as many people vaccinated as possible. In the meantime, everybody needs to continue wearing their masks, practicing good hand hygiene, socially distancing, and all those things that we've become so good at over the past year. We need to keep doing that until we can get to a point where we have everybody immune. In new school guidelines, I know that made some news last week as the state released some new support for the CDC guidelines with the shortened time frames for quarantine with the 7-day option, the 10-day option, and the 14-day option. I just want to make the statement that this is very difficult to operationalize for many of the schools. And my understanding is that most of the schools, not just in Fishers, but also in the county as a whole, are not going to be taking advantage of these shorter time frames. And I would encourage any of you who have concerns about this to actually read the CDC guidelines. They are very specific, as well as the state guidelines. They entail that anyone coming in on a shorter time frame would have to eat lunch alone. They could not participate in sports without wearing a mask, including gymnastics and some of the situations where you normally have to wear a mask or aren't encouraged to wear a mask because of the risk of having your mask caught on your neck and causing injury. So there are a lot of really strict stipulations against using these shortened time frames. And so most schools, again, are going with the longer time frames and just sticking with the 14-day quarantine rule. So I just want to make that statement and encourage any of you to actually read those stipulations, because it is quite difficult for the schools to actually implement this. So we continue to support our schools, and we'll continue to support you guys. And I'll give you another update again next week. Thanks so much for listening. Goodbye.